one of the biggest surprises to come out of the Hogwarts Legacy State of Play event just a few short months ago actually happened just after the event. And that was the confirmation from Avalanche that Hogwarts Legacy is coming to the Nintendo Switch. Now, I won't personally be playing the Switch version, but I was super pumped about this. I know there's a lot of folks out there who don't have a next-gen console, or they just prefer the Switch, the on-the-go nature of it. I get it. Now, here's the interesting piece of this. Not a lot of fanfare was made about this. Avalanche did not talk about it at the State of Play event at all, which I guess kind of makes sense considering it's a Sony event. But even after very little mention, it actually popped up on an Amazon listing where you could pre-order the game, and then it would later appear on the official website where we still have the logo today stating that it is in fact coming to Hogwarts Legacy, as well as in the FAQ section of the website as well. Now here's where things get interesting, because even though Hogwarts Legacy is being developed as a cross-gen title spanning PS4, Xbox One generation, along with the current gen PS5 and Xbox Series X generation, many, myself included, were pretty surprised to see Hogwarts Legacy coming to the Switch, primarily due to the console's outdated hardware. Now, it certainly makes sense from a business perspective, right? I mean, you just take a look at the insane sales of the Switch. That is a huge install base right there, and Hogwarts Legacy is really going to make sure that it is across every console imaginable. No matter which console you have, there will be a way to play this game. But there's one little thing, one little issue here that keeps popping up here on YouTube related to the Switch version. And it's people who keep saying that Hogwarts Legacy on Switch will likely be a cloud version of the game. Now, yes, I'm familiar with cloud technology, but honestly, I had no idea this was a thing on Switch. I just kept seeing it over and over, and so I'm like, okay, what the heck is going on here? Is this actually a thing that's been happening on Switch? Turns out it totally is. This Nintendo Life article here from back in March has a list of games that are currently available only through the cloud on the Nintendo Switch. And you can see it's certainly not a huge list, but there are some big name titles on here. Head on over to the official Nintendo site and you'll find a lengthy explanation there about cloud gaming on the Switch. But here's the short version of it. A cloud version of a game uses streaming technology to play the game from a server. The cloud version requires a stable connection to high-speed internet to play. Because the game is streamed from a server, the full software is not downloaded to your Nintendo Switch system. A small download is required to launch the game. Okay, so if you're familiar with streaming technology, or if you've experimented with it at all, then you know it is very hit and miss. Obviously, it's incredibly reliable, incredibly dependent on your internet connection. But regardless, even with a great internet connection, any streaming that I have ever tried, I have always found the latency, the input delay from the controller to the cloud back to my game is always just too long for me to handle. Now, it's certainly gotten better over the years, but for me personally, can't do it. I have to have it downloaded directly to my system. Not to mention, this causes a huge issue with one of the main selling points of a Switch version, and that's the idea of the portability. You would not be able to play the cloud version. Let's say you're on a plane ride without Wi-Fi, or you're riding in a car with no Wi-Fi, or even if you're just traveling from place to place where you don't have a consistent, reliable internet connection, then you would not be able to play Hogwarts Legacy if it ends up being a cloud version of the game. Now, on the positive side of all this, Nintendo does give free trials for all cloud titles, which means you can try before you actually fully commit to purchasing the game. When it comes to Hogwarts Legacy, though, considering how little they've said about the Switch version, it does lead me to wonder if this could be yet another title that will be added to this growing list of cloud-only games for the Switch. I mean, if you go to Amazon or Best Buy or GameStop right now online, you can pre-order the Switch version of Hogwarts Legacy, and there is no reference to it being a cloud-only title. Who knows? Maybe that's a good sign. Maybe the fact that it doesn't have that on the listing, they're already like, hey, this is confirmed. Why would it not be a full version of the game? Now, one other thing that I double checked for a lot of these titles that they have cloud versions for is I looked on Amazon to see if they have a listing for any of them with an actual picture of a game box that you can order. Because if you think about this, if there's a cloud version, you'd essentially be ordering a box that would have nothing but a code in it. Now, I have seen this done before, but when it comes to these Switch cloud versions, at least in the titles I looked for, I could not find it. So perhaps this is a sign that we do already have confirmation that the Switch is going to be a full-fledged version. But if that's the case, I still can't figure out why they just wouldn't outright say it, and frankly, why we haven't heard more about it. But then the other side of this that we also have to consider is the fact that PlayStation certainly has some sort of marketing exclusivity deal with Hogwarts Legacy. PlayStation is certainly going to want to make it seem like their version of the game is the absolute best place to play. And honestly, that would probably also explain why the Switch version has really been downplayed since the announcement. And you know what? Let's explore that a little bit. Why do people think it cannot be a full version? Well, it mainly goes back to what we were talking about with the outdatedness of the Switch hardware. Then you throw in the fact that Hogwarts Legacy is a fully open world game. It would certainly be a challenge to run on the Nintendo Switch. Now, that being said, titles like The Witcher. I can't believe that this actually happened. But if you guys didn't know this, The Witcher 3 actually was ported to the Nintendo Switch, and I haven't played it myself, but I've heard it's actually not bad. Of course, it's not going to be what it was on PC or even on the consoles, but it was not bad, all things considered. Now, The Witcher is a much older title than Hogwarts Legacy, even though it was very advanced graphically for its time. Now, not so much. So I totally get why this rumor has kind of started. I totally get why people are asking this question. I just hope we get an answer from Avalanche fairly soon on whether or not the Switch version is a cloud version or whether it is a full-fledged port. Now, I want to be totally clear here. This is a rumor. There is no confirmation of this whatsoever. I have reached out to community manager Chandler Wood here on Twitter, and given the reaction to this tweet, how many of you liked this tweet, even though it was sent directly to him, I think there's clearly a group of people who want to know information about this. So hopefully this video will be outdated very quickly, and we'll have a firm announcement on this. We'll have a firm answer to go by. And personally, I really hope it comes from Avalanche sooner rather than later, because I know some of you out there are currently trying to decide which version of the game you want to purchase. Now, even if it is confirmed that it is a full-fledged port, then we have to say, okay, well, actually, how does it run? How well does this game run? We did get confirmation that at least the PS5 version will include both a fidelity mode and a performance mode, which is certainly a good sign. But if you are someone out there who is looking at the Switch version of the game, maybe you're even thinking about pre-ordering the Switch version of the game, personally, I would wait. Wait until we get official confirmation from Avalanche on how this version of the game performs and whether or not it is a full port or a cloud version. You know, I don't always love doing rumor videos, but this is one of those that I think is very important to you, the audience out there. It's important for you to know this information when you're thinking about a buying decision and whether or not the Switch version is something you want to pick up. I even know some people who have been thinking about the Switch as kind of a second version, so they'll have a game to play while they're on the go as well. But this would certainly pose a potential issue for that. And here lately, the Hogwarts Legacy news has just been rolling in week after week. If you didn't catch all the news from the latest PlayStation blog post and short video, then check out the video on the right side of your screen right now. As always, thank you all so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.